Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Rana Muhammad Kashif and you are watching my YouTube channel Positive People Commission. I'm here with the episode number 4 of the Introduction to R Programming series. If you want to know about myself, you can check on my LinkedIn profile. And this is episode number 4 of the Introduction to R Programming series. Previously, we have covered some basics of the R programming, and we will continue this in the episode number 4. And what episode number 4 is offering, we will look into workspace and files and examine our local working directory and how to save files and how to rename files within R. And we will also learn about how to generate a sequence of numbers with different set of commands and different set of functions from basic to pro level, how to create sequences of different numbers. First of all, let us look at what our workspace looks like. Let me go to R Studio so we can get on hands-on examples as well. First of all, what is a working directory? It is a path where we store our files and other codes. So what is our current working directory? To know our current working directory, we will type getwd. So this is our current working directory, and if I want to list all my objects in the current working directory, I will type ls. It will list me all my current objects in the existing working directory or existing workspace, which is shown here. And let me create another variable. For example, y is equal to 99. I've just created a new variable and rechecking my current working directory. You see that a new variable has been added in the current working directory. So this is how our current working directory looks like. I can also list all my files in my working directory by using list.files. I will provide all these commands in my video description, don't worry. What are the existing files in my current working directory? You can see that these are the current files in my working directory which have been listed here. Or I can also use dir, and both serve the same purpose. Moving on to more on working directory, I will use argument function to check on what argument these functions have. For example, I've used list.files, so let me check what argument does this function have. So using args function list.files, it will give me the arguments that can be passed to list.files. And if I check dir and any other, you can put input any build r function, it will print out its arguments, that what argument a function can take. And we can assign our working directory to a variable as well. For example, I want to assign my current working directory to my underscore directory. We have learned variable assignment in the previous episode. So my current working directory has been assigned to my underscore dir. I can also create a new working directory by dir.create tab to autocomplete the function, and I want to create a new working directory which is my dir, and I will set it to my new working directory by using setwd. Will set it to my new working directory. And if I just check my current working directory, you will see that it has been changed now. Previously it was this, and now it has been changed to my dir. Moving on, I can use list.files to show or to know that the directory contains our newly created R files, or you can say that you can use file.exist. So let me check first list.files. There are no files in my current working directory because it has been changed. And let me check if there is no file. So let me create my first file in the new working directory. I will use file.create and let me rename it as my first with extension .r. So this file has been created, and if I look into list.files once again, you can see that previously it returned character 0 because there was no file in my changed working directory, and now I have just created a new file, and you can see that it has been created, my first.r. and I can also check that whether it exists or not by file.exist or my first.r. It is true, so it exists. And I can also access the file info by file info about my file, my first.r. It will give the current information of my file, what is the size of the file when it was created, and etc. So moving further, I can also change a file name by file.rename by my, you see, from and to. I want to change file name of my first.r and I want to change it to my first2.r. So it has been renamed to for my first2.r. And just to recheck list.files, you can see there is only one file because it has been renamed from my first to my first2.r. And I can also create a copy of the file if I want to, and I can also create a copy of my file.copy. You can see from to which file I want to create a copy, my first2.r, and I want to create a copy as my first3.r. So a file copy has been created, and if I just check file list.files, you can see there are two files now because a copy of file2 has been created. I can also use file.path to make file and directory paths that are free of the operating system where my code lies. And I can also create file path to make a platform independent of the path name. File.path, I can create folder 1 and folder 2. So these two paths have been created. So let's get back to our original working directory, that was getwd. Recall that we created the variable my_dir and we saved our working directory in it. If I run that will give the full path of the original working directory at the start. And if I want to change again to my original working directory, what I will do, I will use setwd and just pass on the variable my_directory, and my current working directory will be set to the default working directory. I can also remove everything we left in our working directory by rm list is equal to ls. It will remove everything in my working directory. You see now environment is empty, and if I write ls, character 0, because everything has been removed. So in this part of the lecture we have learned how to examine our workspace and work with the file system of our machine from within R. Now let's move on to sequence of number. In this part we will learn how to create a sequence of numbers in R. I will give this all code in the video description, and just let me press Ctrl+L to clear all. The quickest way to generate a sequence of numbers in R is by using colon operator. Let me type 1:30. It has generated a sequence of number from 1 to 30 with an increment of 1, including 1 and 30. And if I type reverse of it, 30:1, it will generate a reverse sequence of numbers. And let me create a sequence of real numbers. Pi:5, you know pi is equal to 3.14 approximately. So pi to 5 is equal to sequence of these two numbers, and if I write pi to 10, it will generate the sequence of numbers. So it is so this is a sequence of real numbers. Remember that if you need any help on any R function, we will simply type question mark before every function, but for symbols like colon operator, we must enclose it in backtick. For example, if I want to look for help on the colon operator, I will enclose it into ticks, which will most probably just under your escape key on the keyboard, and press question mark before it. I can look for the complete help on the colon operator. One disadvantage of colon operator that we don't have control over it, but with a function of seq sequence, which generates a sequence of numbers, we can sequence we can generate a sequence of numbers with more control. For example, I want to generate a sequence of number between 1 and 30, but I want to have an increment of 2, so I will pass another argument by is equal to 2. So you have seen that it had generated a sequence of number from 1 to 30, but by an increment of 2, and it ended on 29 because our end limit was 30 and it cannot go beyond 30. So also we can try also we can save this sequence into a variable my underscore sequence and sequence 1 colon 30, and I can also pass on argument length is equal to 30. And if I just print my underscore sequence, you can see that it had generated a sequence of number from 1 to 30. I think I made a typo here. Now it is correct, my underscore sequence. I've just made a typo here. So it had generated a sequence of number from 1 to 30. To confirm the length of my sequence, we will pass on the length argument length function on my underscore sequence, which is 30 absolutely. So we can also generate a sequence based upon length of already defined variables. For example, if I want to generate a sequence of numbers based on the length of my underscore seq, so what I will do, I will pass on 1 colon. I want to generate a sequence of numbers starting from 1 to what length to length of already created variable or already created sequence, which is my underscore seq. So it had generated a sequence of number from 1 to 30, or I can also try as an alternative sequence along with is equal to my underscore sequence. It will generate the same set of sequence, or I can also try sequence underscore along my underscore seq. It will generate the same sequence. So these are some alternatives. More often, remember that there are several approaches in R to solve the same problem, but simple approaches that involve less typing without too much hassle are generally considered the best. So moving on to another function to generate a sequence of number is rep. So rep function is another way to create a sequence of numbers. Rep stands for replicate. Let me try rep. I want to repeat 1, and what number of times is 40. So 1 has been repeated 40 number of times. We can also repeat our vector for a certain number of times by doing something like rep a vector of some odd numbers and times equal to, let's say I want to repeat it 20 times. So this vector has been repeated 20 times, 135, again 135, and it has repeated 20 number of times. What if we want to repeat each argument of a vector for a certain number of times? For example, if I want to repeat 1 a certain number of times, 3 a certain number of times, so what to do in this case? In this case, we will write rep C135, and there is another argument which is each 2. So it will repeat each element by 2 and not a vector. So I can also look for the possible number of arguments if I press on the question mark, and I can see that what are possible arguments in this function, which is RAP. You can look into the help section as well. So this was our R session for now, and some concluding remarks in the end, that what we have learned so far in this tutorial. We have learned about how our workspace directory works, how we can create files in our workspace, how we can change our working directory, creating new files in working directory and storing them for usage during our work environment. In the next set of commands, we have learned that how to generate a sequence of numbers in a wide variety of ways, and from basic colon operator we have moved on to REP functions to generate a more enhanced sequence of numbers. So that is now from the episode number 4. What is coming up in the next episode number 5 of the introduction to our programming series in the next week. Next week we will be very fascinating. In the episode number 5 of the R series, we will learn about vectors in R. The simplest and the most common data structures in R are vectors, and what are its different types, what are logical vectors, what are atomic vectors, what are Boolean vectors. We will learn in the next episode. And also we will learn how to handle missing values in R. Missing values might represent some underlying pattern in the data, so missing values must not be ignored, they must be handled very carefully. And how missing values are presented in R, what are NAs in R. So all in next episode number 5 of the R series. Till then, take care. Allah Hafiz. Bye bye.